Astrology isn't about prediction, it's about positioning. What if your birth chart was never meant to tell your future, but to reveal how consciousness moves through you? In this deep conversation, Rahsmariah V. Bey breaks down the true architecture of astrology, birth charts, higher realms, and the intelligence guiding it all.
I just want to state that there's not enough word to really give thanks to this Moorish woman. Did a lot of influences and help a lot of people, myself, including me, and a lot of people, in Canadaland that I can, confirm regarding this. So, Raz,
Yes.
it's an honor. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. It's an honor also to be on your platform. I'm honored that you're honoring me. I really am. I really mean that. And that for all those who are joined in by view or by listening, or who will listen at another time, I really appreciate it. Now, you did ask me about a bio, so there may be some people, because it's been like 20 years that I've been in this.
Oh, wow.
And over 20 now. Yeah. This is 2021. So we're 21 years. So, I guess I will read the bio because I never really, we just went forth with moving forward in doing what we were doing. But when I look back and you ask me about bio, I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. So for those who don't know, and didn't maybe come to our classes physically for 12 years, we did classes at the National Black Theater at 125th and 5th. And that was for 12 years every Wednesday. And that was during the time when people were actually in physical classes, and everything is now virtual. Yeah. So I am Rahsmariah Bey, and an author, publisher, astrologist, teacher. Now, prior to me getting involved in the Moorish information, I was actually or getting involved in the information regarding the mothers and fathers of civilization and civilization principles on the planet. I did host a lively weekly TV broadcast, and I also had a local newspaper. And I started that because you'd ask me, like, what was the spirit of my thinking? Because we're all on a path. We are all on our path. And a lot of the things that we have done in the past, such as some of the things I'm sharing here, you never really knew. You say to yourself, oh, wow, that's why that happened, or that's why I did this or that. And that's what I find to be true in my life, for certain. And I'm sure others will too, because even out of high school, in high school, I used to work at a local newspaper in the back in production. I never knew then it was just a job. I never knew that was part of the path. Or even back when I was, in elementary school, and I used to write, the fire prevention, and I won the award. That never means anything to you when you're doing it. You're just being you. And then you stay on your path and it unfolds. You may have stumbling blocks here or there. But what I did is I hosted a live TV broadcast, and that came about because I had a local newspaper, and someone in the area had a TV broadcast show, and they had a contract to do X amount of time with it. And something came up in their life, and they weren't able to complete that. So they asked me if I would step in and complete their TV broadcast. That's how that started. It was never something that I had planned or thought I would do. And this is how life goes. This is part of how it goes. And then after doing that, the broadcast, I ended up doing another contract with them and having local news. I also wrote and sold radio advertisements where I had to write the advertisements, and they put the music to it or whatever. I remember, and I just want to make this statement because when I go back to that, when I was writing those radio advertisements and I was bringing them back to the radio. And then the DJ, or at that time we called them DJs, this jockey or radio announcer, I guess they call them now, would put the music to it. We really had some banging TV, radio commercials. Didn't think of it that way then, but they were all very effective because of the unity of two things mesh in the arts. That's how it goes. So I did open the newspaper to share local positive information. And that was sort of the ground for everything else. And the reason that I did that was because I was asked one day, I didn't have a newspaper at the time, and I never spoke, or did anything or wrote or whatever, but someone asked me if I would speak at one of those, Black History Month at that time. And that was like 1995 or something. And I wrote something. In fact, the book that I wrote was the speech that I did. It's called Tribute to the True North American Inventors. That was my speech, actually, that I made. And once I did that and I saw all of these things that we had contributed as quote unquote Black people at that time, because I didn't know otherwise, I'm like, wow, we need to, share this information. We need to know about ourselves. So my inspiration to even do the newspaper really came from that experience. And then I became a founder, one of the 10 founders of the charter schools. Remember, the charter schools was very popular. So because I was already in a community with a newspaper, they asked me to do so. And I did. And lastly, prior to coming into this information, I was a president of a local NAACP. That was a very short-lived situation because we understand the condition of our people's minds. And I do want to say this, at that time, there was a sister who had a computer school and she was the secretary. So it was me and her, and she came in with the computer, put the whole charter, NAACP charter, up on the computer screen. And at that time, we didn't have laptops. It was very new. So she had a laptop and she put the charter up, and we'd go to the meeting and anything you want to refer to. And then because it was her personal computer, her screenshot would say, give her initials of her business, just the initials. And people complained that that was free advertising. Can you imagine that? Like, and she offered all of this. So these are the kinds of things that came up. So I of course, gave a resolve that I thought made sense. And it's like, all right, so then what we'll do is someone who's in the meeting will be held to every time the computer, sleeps, just tap a button and then the screensaver will go away. I thought that was a good answer. They didn't think so. So I thought it was a good resolve to the problems. So now I also put in the bio to you that I was an avid, quote, reader of Nawabian information. And the reason I did that is because, again, you were talking about, the spirit and how the spiritual path goes. I know that when I started reading that information that was not readily available to us, and that it did something to me to want to continue on the path of knowing that which we have not known. And so I have to give, acknowledgement to that. It also, in those readings, made you go to the Bible or Bibliotheliatek to look up certain things. So that's how I became more familiar with certain things there. So I have to give credence to that because that was a time that was important. I used to actually sit and could not wait to get the next publication. There was someone locally who, was distributing them, and I just couldn't wait for them. And so I wanted to be clear that I was just a reader. I didn't join the group or anything like that. I just enjoyed the reading, and it helped. Now, after all of that, and I came into the Moorish information, was that I attended classes with, over 20 years ago now, given by Valor Harry Bey, right, at Camden. I know that she, I think, started in Philly, but she was in Camden. So I came in at that time in Camden, New Jersey. And then after that, I volunteered my services to assist with the layout and design of several newspapers, Moorish newspapers, such as the already existing Al Moroccan Star and the newly formed Moroccan Light, which was distributed out in California. The Civil Alert newspaper, that one was with Sabir. The Moorish Civil Letter with Abdullah Bey, and the Meridian Press newspaper, which was another local paper. But I did all of that when I came in as my contribution to this moving information. Then in really RV Bey Publications, the concept of it was established the moment I came into this information. It's RV Bey Publications. It wasn't a website until 2008, but it was existing prior, as well as the books. And then in 2006, established the MHHS, Moorish Heritage and History School classes at New York. And that started in August, actually. And if you want to know how that started, it was myself, Taj, and Grand Sheikh Nature Bey. And we used to travel around, and I'll never forget, it was in August. And he said, let's just go to New York and set up a table right there at 125th and 5th, the infamous juice bar. And so we did that. Like, instead of traveling, let's just go take a little break. And then that led to being in New York. And then from New York, and with the assistance of the people there and the interest of the people there, we ended up going into Jack's place. And then from there, we, Bambaataa, had obviously connections with the National Black Theater, and we got into the theater. And that's exactly how it works. Now, at that time, of course, Nature, he had his temple, and, you know, I actually hail from that temple. And then, of course, with Taj, he's always doing things, all of his, sojourn, I guess. So that was me that had to hold down the classes. We had a lot of fun over the 12 years, and we had a lot of experiences. Then in 2008, Sister Anita Ill and I co-founded the Blog Talk, MHH Blog Talk, not the physical classes, the Blog Talk. And that includes today, 5 programs: Circles of Readers, Principles of Nationality in Action, Circle of Readers, Moorish Heritage and History class, which is the Wednesday that took the place of the physical classes, Sons of Allah, which is hosted with Mizraim and co-hosted with Cujo.
Oh, Sons of Allah?
Sons of Allah.
So shout out to your son, Mizraim L. My big bro, Cujo L.
Oh, all right. Very good. Very good. Right. Because that's right. So those are the 5 programs, and Sister Standing on Law this Saturday night and even on the third Sunday. So I wanted to say that with there was one transition here that I just lost my train of thought of what I was going to say. But with the website. At that time in 2008, there was no, the whole website thing wasn't there. So I just did that myself. I sat there and I put the bones of all the pages on it. Sister Anita was the virtual editor on it, and it just grew from there. Now, I want to make this statement because a lot of people know that it's an old platform and it's filled with a lot of stuff. And I actually, in order to come up virtually, I would have to actually redo the entire website. And I did some things that the system itself, the platform itself, could not do because I did graphics all my life with newspapers, etc. So I was able to throw some things in. And at this point, it's gonna, I'm working on changing that, but it's just redoing the whole, you know, the technology industry is changing so fast, which leads us to where we are right now, virtually doing this. And this is the way, this is a force to make changes type thing in the technology that has to happen at this time. And so getting ready to do that as well. So that's it for my bio.
And you know what? There's a, you remember when we first talked, there's a definition that for me was really vital. And that's the one that you did on the video back then. I can't remember when exactly, but you were doing it with Sainita.
Yes.
And allow me to read it because
All right.
me going, I put it on the website, but I'm saying me putting with, metaphysical things connected to mysteries and, the galactic paradigm. What you said always, I'm going to say walk with me. So I'm just going to paraphrase it. So what's
All right.
more? Is it the manifestation of the being into flesh? The being travels upon the waters of the earth, but first beginning in the mother's womb, since man is mind, and we all spirit, and then we come into the flesh. So we travel upon the 7 stages of development in the waters of the mother's womb. That's mooring. And then we're done. When we're done, we get caught from the Nev L, which is navigating hell, and then we become navigating hell upon the earth plane. I am that I am, Rahsmariah. So that for me, that was magic, and
Yeah, and it's absolute. It doesn't matter who you are. We are all, as we know, spirit man manifested in the flesh. You're coming that way right there. So when people, like you said, when people say more, now when you look at the word more, it's a transitive word. It's associated with waters and boating and things like that, when Mars, like all of that. So you think about it. So where's the first waters that you actually navigated on? It's the 7 stages of development in your mother's womb, and then cut from the navel and become a navigating L on the earth plane. No one can really escape that. That's what really happens. It's an absolute. And so with that being said, we're, once we have to ask ourselves why we're here. Like everyone has a purpose. It's their soul purpose. And I think that everyone talks about how they want to be, perfect or perfecting and become one with the all. All right. So then if that's the case, there was some division there, some where piece of the all here on this earth plane to correct or perfect what and who we are, and so that we can become one and sit with the all. And it's almost like we were talking recently about when Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, this is a breakfast fight, right? So it's like, all right, it's a breakfast, it'll be over by breakfast. So we're thinking, well, then how do we get to sit at the breakfast table? Well, you're not going to sit at the breakfast table if you don't know what it is you're supposed to know. Mm-hmm. You're just not going to, and no one is judging that or even grading it. It's all within you. So yeah, it is true. But can we pull up to the breakfast table so that it can all be over? And so what we're learning as we're here now, this takes us right into the astrology chart, right? The astrology chart is your navigation chart. Mine is different from yours. The astrology chart will lead you to all of the things that people hear, like, you have a higher self and a lower self, and you want to aspire to the higher. Well, if you look at your chart, your birth chart. Now, we move on from there, but fundamentally, you got to start with a foundation. All of the aspects and the ones that have challenges, squares, oppositions of the planets, that's your lower self.
Repeat it again, please.
All right. When you look at your navigation chart, your birth chart, and you'll see where it has, we're only talking about the positioning of the planets to each other. And they're in certain houses. Each house is an aspect of your life, of 12 aspects of life. But how the planets are geographically, mathematically sitting with each other, how close they are, creates a trine, creates a square, creates a sextile, etc., or opposition. The ones in your chart that are squares and or oppositions and can be conjuncts if two energies are together, too closely together, like beyond closer than 20 degrees. That conjunct, depending on what those two energies are, that can cause confusion. That can cause a problem with that energy. If it's a Mars energy, and a Uranus energy, they're both unbending. Mars is ready to act out, and fight, and Uranus isn't going to bend. So you got to fight. So you would look at that and see what house, what facet of your life it's in, and that's where you're going to have your challenges. And all of those squares and challenges of your chart is your lower self, and is what you need to work on. Absolutely. And so now we go to the words of the prophet who said, your man's business is about reflection, because this is all about that reflection of yourself. And so getting into knowing, how this is reflected in your chart, that'll help you to know yourself. Especially now, everybody is looking to, everybody seems to want to know. And then you have people who say, well, what type of, are you doing tropical, placidus, sidereal, whatever? All of it matters, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start with a basic elementary chart.
Yeah.
And then you yourself grow into looking at it from this view or looking at it from this other angle in the cosmos, because there's so many angles, things are moving. And that's what makes things come from a different type of reading, if you will. It's infinite, actually. It's infinite. So I think that all disciplines, even those in the churches or whatever they want to call it, because like it's hard for me to say religion, because I know that religion is not what we think it is. I know that all religions that were established for one purpose, and that is to teach you of your infirmities. Yet the astrology will teach you, because all of them come from it. You go right to your navigation chart, you got it. You got your infirmities up. So, we need to cut off the fat, as they say, and go straight to the source. And I think in these days and times, they want to go to the source, whether they even realize it or not, because it's such an internal thing. They want to, many are, it has been already said that many will go through the earth seeking knowledge, and knowledge shall increase. And we're looking at it. And I'm not saying that it hasn't happened before, or that it doesn't always happen, but in this age where the energies of Aquarius, which is, Uranus, then you look at the other planet, Saturn, which is about discipline and order, and, all of them together at this time, at this cycle, is absolutely impressing upon anyone that's on this earth plane that it is time for one, exposure of things that will start with you first, exposure of all things that are not really built. And here it is, because this is what it is. Things that are not really built on strong foundation cannot stand today.
Indeed.
It's just that simple. And we know what those foundations are: love, truth, peace, freedom, and then everybody has justice. Those are powerful, all things with love. People try and they say, but it's up to what they perceive or conceive love and action to be. So when you're dealing with the astrology, when you coming down, like I had started on blog, I started with the outer planet Pluto when I come in inward. Because when you get down to it closer to you, to the seven most influential planets, it really comes down to Mars and Venus. And that's the masculine and feminine energy. It really comes down to your actions, and are they, those actions and reactions, in love or not? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. I mean, there's of course more to it, but essentially that is it. Because people say we'll do everything in love, and we know that people have different concepts. So like, well, it's action and reaction. It's intent and action, the action of your intent, and even then you may do an action, do something, and you're like, oh wow, I ought not have done that. But yeah, you ought to, because that's the only way you're going to learn that you ought not have done that, because everything is off.
Right.
So that's important at this time. It's always been important, but it's heavily important now, because a lot of people have been left alone. A lot of people have been left to their own devices. A lot of people have literally been left alone and unsure about the things going on in the world, and it's a matter of, I don't want to say belief, because we have to, as mankind, graduate from belief. I mean, that offends people. Like, what do you mean? I'm a believer and all that. But the whole thing is that you're a believer until you know. And when you graduate from being a believer, such as, we use the simplistic of numbers and letters, and you're told you have to believe as a child from your teacher or your mother or whatever. These are letters. Until you start writing words with them in sentences, you don't have to believe their letters. You know it. It's called graduation. So then you move forward into having faith in what you know, not what you believe, because it's a degree thing. You literally have to say, no, I know, because you can't have faith in what you don't know. You can't be what you don't know. You can only be what you know. And that brings us to how each and every one of us is on this course of knowing and having the experience. And then you understand why man does not know by just being told, because you're going to have to go inward. You're going to have to apply. Like, people want to seek for wisdom, but wisdom only comes by the application of what you know, of applying what you know. That's the only way. Wisdom does not come any other way for you to know. And that whole venture of being different, and I don't mean being different because you want to be different. I'm saying being different because, guess what? Newsflash, you are different. We're all different. We are all different. What keeps us held together in a productive direction is principles. That's it. Without the principles on that foundation of things, then, we're just all running around like, scatterheads because I'm different. No, principles don't change. And they are what you use to build on, all of us. And so like I said, so people are finding that the principles have been replaced with someone else's ideas or someone else's way of doing things. You don't have to, you can't do things the way someone else does. You have to do it your way, but we can all still work with principles and we're good. And this much we know, like, if you don't know that, back to the breakfast table. You can't pull up to the breakfast table. Let me put it another way, because it has been written that there is a table prepared for you. Have you heard that? That there's a table prepared for you? I think it's in the Bible, or Bibliothek, the Bible. And that what I find is that people, instead of them going to the table of life, I'm talking about on this earth plane, their lessons, their path, instead of them going to that table that is prepared for them already, they can tell you this: they can tell you everything that they don't like, because they went and they tried this, I don't like that, and they tried this over here. They can tell you about the experiences at all the tables of all the things they don't like. Well, can you tell me about the experiences at a table of the things you do like? Because if you can't, then you are not at your table yet. Because when you go to your table that is prepared for you, spirit being coming in, that is prepared for your lessons, you're going to find all the things you do like. So people keep going, oh, here, there, and then even in relationships, same thing. You know, you can maybe apply it to relationships and maybe get another understanding of it, but that's how it goes. Instead of what is prepared and what is divinely in order. But we can't get past, because we don't want to reflect, we usually don't get the lessons that are being sent to us. Right. Because, example, let's say you want something, you invoke it, you pray for it, whatever you do. And then the universe will say, you really want that? Like, yes, I really want that, to whoever your God is or whatever, I really want that. So, oh, okay. Because the universe knows that you cannot own anything, you cannot be possessive of a thing, whether it's tangible, spiritual, or otherwise, unless you have and know both sides of it. You have to know what we call the negative and the positive, the yin and the yang, the left and the right. So you're going to ask for something, and then it's going to start giving it to you on the other side. And then you're going to say, oh my God, or, whoever it is you pray to or invoke to or whatever, or ask for, because asking you will receive. So then you're going to start saying, oh, God doesn't give me what I want. No, your God, whoever that is. But no, you did get it. You just don't want to accept to really have ownership of it. You don't really want the whole lesson, that whole thing that you're asking for. And so back to why, another reason why man's business is about reflection. So now when you receive that in, then the polarity, like people say, what side of the pole you're on? That means the polarity of the opposition. So now we're being forced. People are literally being forced to have to, when I say be alone, I mean with self. And it is widespread because of what's going on. People are not going to work, they're home, they're able to think more, they're able to be more industrious. It's a good thing. It's really not a bad thing, so we're being forced to do that. But what has been replaced, what I was saying is the principles that we all should have has been replaced with some other program on this earth plane that we have bought into. Simple, because we're in this world but not of it. So we've replaced the principles with another program that doesn't have the principles in it, and it can't work. Yeah. And now a lot of times people find themselves in a place where they're like, what's going on? Especially now, what's going on? And then they start wanting to, is it me? You have to be forced to say, is it me? Or look at yourself. So that's where we are. So a good start, I'm telling you, a good start is to know your chart. Because when you get to know your chart and you can just accept, when you read it, it's like, you might not want to admit it at first, but in your soul, you're like, wow, that's why I do what I do. Now, if you can do that, then somebody somewhere, and it's not the person at all. It's like, even with me, it's not me that's telling you. If I was to look at your chart and say, boom, whatever it was, it would say, it's because that's what the planets say. That's what the energy say. So once you get that and you say, oh, somebody gets me, the universe gets me. That's who gets you. In fact, it's like I said to Daddy, you have to come down here to do this job. And you got to get over these stumbling blocks, just like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, right? She had to go down to her yellow brick road. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the problems we have is that people don't want to go down their own yellow brick road. They want you to pick them up and walk them down their yellow brick road. Cannot be done. And look what happened. Even in the story of Dorothy, when she got there, it was all an illusion. It was all an illusion, and she was already home, but couldn't tell her. Back to the man does not know by being told. It's your experiences. So it's our perception too of some other program. I mean, I think that if we were to stick with the principles, and what we do a lot is we hear a lot of this, well, back in the day, we did it this way, back in the day. The point of that is we can't really go backwards because we have to move forward. But back in the day, the point is, did you learn the principles of those lessons of that day? Are you able to bring them forward now? That's all that it is, because in every era of grandma or mother, and then grandmother, and then great-grandmother, you're gonna find some serious, serious principles that you cannot escape. And you may be forced right now to deal with those principles, to know them. And so we can talk about going back, but it's about moving forward. Now, the only way that we ought to go back is with ourselves, as it said, backwards through the ages, masterminds trace themselves, thus they know. And that again is in your astrology chart, because whatever you were in your last life, people say, oh, I was that in my last life. No, you're that, and you're that today too. It's just a continuation of your journey. So backwards to the ages, masterminds can trace themselves, thus they know. And now you know more about your path that you're on. And I think that the whole, what I call social engineering, I just use that as a term, it seems best, is bust up, blown up in our faces right now. And we're forced, literally forced, to really just start with the elementary principles that don't change. And we can find our way.
Right. And you know what you mentioned in the foundation, it's key,
Yeah.
It's a big key. And
Yes.
we're on the birth chart, right? So metaphysical, or in the occult, 3 has its esoteric powers. So could you go again on the 3 signs of any individuals, solar, lunar, and
it's the Trinity. It's the sun, the moon, and your rising. And that's like, if you will, that's like your PowerPoint, to navigate through. It's all 3 of those, because one represents your characteristics and personality, which is your sun sign. The moon sign is actually who you are. Trying to get your characteristics, trying to express your soul's dictates. Remember, it said follow the dictates of your soul. Trying to express your soul dictates through the characteristics of whatever your sun sign is. And then you are presenting the dictates of your soul through whatever you're rising. Rising and ascendant is the same thing. So however you rise, and that would be whatever is on the horizon, which is in the first house that belongs to Aries. That's the rising. The sun rises there also, and then it sets, in the west on Libra. And when it sets after those first 6 houses, where you are groomed by your home life, your self roots, your home, your self roots usually from, say your mother's house, but some people might have been raised with an aunt and uncle, it doesn't matter, from home. Then when you cross over out of those 6 personal houses, you enter into the social house. And whatever you learned there is what you're going to present there. But back to your Trinity. Your Trinity is mind, body, soul, or sun, moon, and rising. Now, you can do a quick understanding if you know the what? Elements, fire, air, earth, and water. And you can quickly, and I do that, I call it a Trinity chart. Like, what is your sun, moon, and rising? And so if your sun is fire, and a fire sign, one of the fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, what would I say? Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. Yeah, all right, it's one of the three, excuse me, because there's 3 and 4. 4 elements, 3 signs. All right, if it's one of the fire signs, then it's common sense for you to say that your own presentment, because that's your rising sign is water. And your own, in that water, your own presentment is putting out your characteristics and personality because it's fire. Same thing in relationships. You know, and I kind of broke that down a little bit in the psychology of astrology where it goes that, but that's how that works. So now you say, well, what's my moon doing? Your moon is suffering. Your soul self is suffering because you haven't figured out that, you know, you need to acknowledge that. And that's a lot of work. That's enough work for you to do because nothing you're going to do is going to change those elements. And even though it may seem that, oh, that's a bad thing. No, it's not a bad thing. It means that this time around, you might need to have your fire tempered, but not so emotionally. So then you check your emotions because water represents emotion. What if you were fire and you had earth as the ascendant? Well, earth puts out fire better than water, but it's a complementary, I mean, it's a better tempering of it. You understand? You know, it's a better tempering of it. So you could have an earth sign on your rising. So what does that mean? Because I'm only talking about the rising being not compatible. It means you're not presenting yourself right. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you otherwise, but it means your presentation is all wrong. It's all needs work. That's all it means. So it's not that you're not a good person because, you know, you are who you are, whatever. It means that you need to work on this time around how you present the dictates of your soul. That's all that it means. And with that being said, if you knew that about you, you would work on that. Not only would you work on it, the first thing that will happen to you is you will feel this overwhelming sense of acceptance because you realize what the quote problem is or what the source of the situation is, and you can work on adjusting it, fixing it, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
What's more powerful than that?
Mm-hmm. And Raz, could you as well, you know, give an esoteric meaning of the houses?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good question. That's very good. I'm glad you asked me that. Because truthfully, you ever hear people say in their religious choice that one day they're going home to the mansions in the sky? You know, you know what I'm talking about? Like God has, you know, there's many mansions in my father's house, and like that, right?
Yeah.
Truth is, and we're talking about connecting back with the all. When you go to that place that you're talking about, there are no 7 planets pressing upon anything to do with your fate. The astrology wheel, as we see it, and the 7 most influential planets out of a total of 10, those 7s are there as the schematic of your challenges. Once you get past, or what I would call off of the fickle wheel of fate, because that's really what this astrology wheel is. Once you get past that, well, that little mansion place you're talking about, it does not have those things in it at all. It just has the 12 facets of anyone's life, the 12 houses, but it has, you know, that's why they describe it with the pearly gates and all this stuff like that. So the whole journey, the whole thing is that you have to overcome whatever it is mundanely or on the earth plane. That's the whole point. So to ignore it or to be told, oh, that's just, entertainment, you can understand. I'm not going to go into the minds why anyone said that other than to get you to go along with their vision on a massive basis. But that's really what it is. You still have the 12 facets of your of life. You have those who I don't know if I'm going to use the word rule, but they all are tangible. Like they're not tangible, but they're there in the spirit. These are the things that make us whole, the 12, and we're in the center. So we're the 13th, they say, right? Because all of this is around. So even Yahshua, Jesus, some might use that terminology. He had what we call the halo, but it was really the 360 circle. And we, so we're here to have our experiences so that we can become one with the all, which, we say Allah, or you could say all law. We're not talking man's law, because the true law is a law of correspondence, which is the planets, or when I say planets, I mean energies, and we're all energy, every last one of us, even in this physical form. But all of this truly is a temporary, because we, remember where we talk about being in a valley, we talk about hills and valleys on our road. Well, I mean, some like to stay in the valley, right? But I think that it's good to take them hills and to be able to, like I don't want to, some people are comfortable with staying in the valleys, but you're truly staying in the valley of the shadow of sure death because you're not here permanently. So some people just find themselves comfortable and then, oh no, it's too many obstacles. I got to go through the hills and the valleys. It looks like too much work. No, I want to be able, especially if I'm in the valley, be able to go up to the top of the hill and come down again and do it or whatever. That's what we want to do. And again, programming or lack of the principles, the principle was applied to us all, is how we have been really taken off our path of our path.
Yeah.
So that's what happens. And also, I don't know, you're dealing with colors and things like that, that are assigned. They mean something. So if you're astral traveling, even, you're going to see different colors, and you're going to have to know what that color, vibration, energy means. Back to the elementaries, fundamentally, of the astrology wheel. See, the astrology wheel was left really by our ancient mastermind as a teaching tool. The thing about it is that you can look at a simple astrology wheel and it's got the lion and the bear and the, different little whatevers on them. And that's simplistic to teach children. So it holds its weight all the way. I'm going to show later, like, like you'll see the simplistic, then you'll see this astrology wheel that someone may have put up or made, or you may have seen somewhere. And it's got all this stuff in it and it looks just so confusing. So what you see in that wheel is based on what you know. Period. It's learning by degrees because it's all in there. It's like 360 is the complete cycle. It's all in there and you learn by degrees. So I think that we missed a lot when we, fell away from that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But you can go, I want to say this about, because people ask, where do you start? But what came to my mind are places, especially Philadelphia, what's known as Philadelphia right now. There were so many institutions, buildings that we built for learning institutions. In other words, your child is different. Every one of us, but their inclinations, you have to bend their inclinations towards what they want to do. So we did that. That's what a lot of those buildings that they now have turned into churches, or mostly Catholic churches. And Philadelphia is a prime example. I mean, it's just right there. And people say, well, there's a church on every corner. No, they weren't churches. They were institutions of learning for specific scientific learning, mathematics, whatever. And we veered away from that as well to someone's agenda program to say, okay, all children must go through first grade, second grade, third grade and learn like this, and put ourselves into a box. But we were born on the box. We were born on the square. We already are who we are. And we need to just, be inclined towards those things. So once we got into the square, then, some generations and generations come about. Now they're like, we need to change our learning to whole concept, like trying in efforts, making efforts, the school quote industry, making efforts to try to make this thing happen. It can't happen like that. It's not going to happen like that. Then again, like even with charter schools, is let's do specificity on certain things. So it's all in front of us, what has been done and what we need to do, which is to have our own institutions of learning. Problem is, it's like, we're going to have an institution of learning, and we start thinking that it's going to be like what we've already seen and what we already know. No, it can't be that way. It's just the same here. Maybe people want to start. I don't know if I should bring this in. A new process or government for Moors. And I know you've heard that, right? Why? We already have what it is that we need to have. It's already there. But that's probably another class. So, but what I'm saying is that we want to redo exactly what has been done that we say is wrong and oppressive. We can't go there. We have to go backwards not backwards, back to the mindsets of our foremothers and fathers. We really do.
Yeah. Well said. Ras, I wanted to tackle now metaphysical experience, but before this, I'm just gonna read something, from Clock of Destiny, actually,
Yes.
which is available on your website. So this is actually from volume 1, page 23, and there's 2 sections, but I'm gonna go quickly. So
Yeah.
Our reasoning mind is the outer world referred to as the light of the world, all of which derive from woman, the creator of all sons in the course of 9 months, from conceptions to birth. Thus, woman is the grand master, architectural, and carpenter of the human body and mind, which makes all one's Muslim, regardless to the shade of skin and colors of the eyes. All male babies are sons of 9. Could you state your knowledge or even esoteric info regarding this and the importance or the esoteric importance of the woman, but not the physical, but the cosmic aspect?
Yeah, the universal womb, the universal mind bank, as they call it at Akashic Records. The universal womb is absolutely and unequivocally a womb. I'm going to state my position, of course, and there's some people have opposition, but it doesn't matter because absolutes are absolutes. Once again, we need to deal with absolutes.
Mhm.
Now you use the terminology, or CM Bey used the terminology, which was the key. He said that the woman is the grand architect, right? We know that they say Solomon, the grand architect, and we're going to identify who the grand architect is, but let's just, but the grand architect built Solomon's temple, soul of man's temple, which is the body, and did so in the darkness, in the silence, with no hands and no tools. Well, that's the womb. So who's the grand architect? She. Now, you can go into, and I have done this, to a temple, into a Masonic lodge. And you know what they have on the wall? Right here in Philadelphia being one of them. They have on the wall up high, the grand architect built Solomon's temple. Okay? So they cloaked it. Instead of saying the woman, now we can ask why. I'm not going to get into why, because when you talk about mystery schools, let's really get clear. Everything is learned by degrees.
Yes.
Everything is learned by degrees, right? So what was the purpose of the Masonic orders, which, by the way, Mason is Ma's son. So we have to connect all of this. If you're a Mason, it's simply saying you're Ma's son, and you are, because the grand architect is Ma, and she built you in the silence, in the darkness with no tools. So what is the purpose of building the Masonic Lodge to cloak that absolute truth is the question we should ask. But it may be too late for some. Because I got to plug in I got my cord in. Because they have already taken an oath. They have already taken an oath to a demigod and of sort through their cultural, through their, you said a cult, whatever. And that oath says, that oath they took, they can't speak, and they made an oath to that instead of to mother, or instead of humanity. So it's done. So that's the question we ask. Why, how is, why was that built in the first place? So now that we can ponder that, let's go back to the source, which is her. Let's go back to the fact that you didn't get here but through the womb. Let's go back to the suppression that is the fall of humanity, is her, is the suppression of her, the grand architect. And that's what CM Bey is absolutely stating. Now, everybody who comes to this earth plane, you really need to read the book of John. It will help. And see, a lot of people, when you'll say read the book of John, or if you mention the Bible, because of this programming, the first thing they think is, oh, the Bible, oh, I don't, read that. But what we have to understand is that during the time in which the Bible is put together, they took 66 books that were already written, and compiled them to establish that Bible. And the most popular version is, people have used is King James, but because of, again, the agenda, programming, or lack of, principles, in this program to throw away your Bible. That's terrible to do, because the Bible is truly an elementary science book. The Quran is an advance, in terms of, learning and as I said, what you see, put it in a book, etc., like that. So we have to keep that in mind. So, so the book of John and the book of John that I'm talking about, they didn't even put it in the Bible. So who are they to say that it didn't go? That must be, or that it should go, or that anything should or shouldn't go of writings that were already existing. What was that about? So we highly suggest people read that to get the understanding spiritually, esoterically, because it's really talking, we will talk, and especially as Moor is supposed to say as above, so below, but do we really know what that means? As above, so below. And, I think I'm going to pull up a Trinity, because we started with the Trinity, and then you join the two together and you create the Hex Alpha. That's as above, reaching down to below. And then if you put another one on top of that, pointing to all of the, complementary elementary signs, you have the Tetragrammaton. You say it's all symbols, because man must learn by signs and symbols. So, pre-Genesis, let's call it, the as above story, so below.
Mhm.
The universal womb, creation, and why that happened, and how when you get to the earth and you get to that Bible you read, it is only beginning to tell a story of what has already happened. And it starts with Genesis. Come on, we got to wake up. Genes, genetics, genes of Isis, mother. That's what it is. So that's the story. So we had to come here, and there's a whole story behind that. But we had to come through here because of actions that were already done, and come down and replace this. Now, I will say this, Mother, the universal, the grand architect, when she, let's see, how do I put this? When she has the child to come through for the earth plane, when you read it in the Bible, the very first part of the Bible, this just knocks everything and puts it in place and gives you something to at least think about and ponder over. You meaning all of us, those who are listening. In Genesis, or genes of Isis, or genetics of mother of that Bible, it begins with, they use the term, God created the heavens, the earth, and we were to come down, be fruitful, multiply, eat of the trees, the fruit of the trees, make that your meat. So we now know the definition of meat are the things that grow from trees, not flesh, but and all herb seed-bearing herbs would be your medicine. Well, if you continue to read Genesis 1 and you get down to where it's going to slide into second base on Genesis 2, okay, you're shaking your head, you know what I'm talking about, right? You will clearly see that someone else came in and said, oh, no, and repeated what you just read in Genesis 1. Amen is done. And they started saying that they were going to, like, for instance, when it says, I'm going to make it rain so that the seeds will grow. He says, no. I'm going to make a mist come from the earth.
Mhm.
You got to really read that. What it's showing you is that there was an infiltration right there of the word of what Mother said. Right there. Now, the problem is that, and also, this is metaphysical as well, or this is spiritual acknowledgement. It also says that in one, so with Genesis 1 manifestation, it says, your spirit man, right? We're spirit man, so we're manifested in the flesh. But then in Genesis 2, it says, I'm going to make man from the earth. Isn't that a contradiction of the first part? If we're spirit manifested in the flesh, coming down to this earth to replenish it, then who is this person in Genesis 2 talking about, I'm going to make man from the earth? I'm not going to make it rain. I'm going to make a mist come up. And I'm also going to build a garden. And the man that I make, it's right in there, is for the purpose of working this earth. Not coming down, being fruitful, multiplying, enjoying everything, being fed, don't have to worry about shop rate and wherever you go shop for food. That's what Genesis 1 says. But Genesis 2 says, no, I'm going to make man from the earth to be a slave. It's right in Genesis 1 to 2. So it's so clear, no one can, it actually escaped you at first. Because a lot of people, they'll read it and say, I don't know, they said that God wrote this and this is the word. Okay, well, let's just look at what the word says. So right there, people then go on often and they navigate as if they're Genesis 2, if I can use that term now, Genesis 2 creations.
Right.
That's it. So no, we're not that. So back to, but the point is that, the other point is that Mother said X, Y, Z. The universal womb said to do this in Genesis 1. That's what was said to be done. And someone else came in and said, no, I got another plan. It's right there. And so this is what we see that has happened to mother even to this day. I mean, the condition to this day is nothing is never unattainable. But until women wake up to their responsibility, duty, and who they are, and that every being that comes here, I don't care who they are, comes through her. And so therefore she's the grand architect building the body and can murder the body and can do a whole lot of other things to it while she's building it. If she does not know that that is her that does that, then how can we ever, 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 ever fix anything in terms of spiritual, esoteric, or anybody coming here to have this experience? It's not going to happen until she does that, because she's the portal, or what do people call the Stargate, whatever you want to call it. That's how it's going to go down. And back to, so why were the Masonic orders, who admit to be mother's sons, established? Was it established to learn by degree? Was it established that if I tell you that the grand architect is her, will you believe me? So we're going to cloak it, and as you go up in degrees, you'll get the truth about it? Is that what, I don't know. You know, you think, well, why don't we just say it? Because see, in these days and times, where in this electrifying age of information, you got to come straight or don't come at all. Because the generations that are behind us, you know, it's just like when I established RV Bey publication, the spirit told me to put civics for the rising generation as a tag, you know, because that's the spirit of it, for real. You know, civics being civilization and civilization principles. So the generations coming, or just souls return. We're all ancestors return. All of us are. And so those who are coming, they say, are coming with their eyes open. And I believe that, because life and the principles of life are very, very, very simplistic.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Roz, before now open up the Q&A section, that portion here, metaphysical experience.
Yes.
I would like you to share any experience that you had, for the sole reason that, you know, within this realm here, it's not physical. You know, it's embracing all dimensions.
Yes.
At the same time. So please go ahead, Raz, to you know, to the people. You're metaphysical. You can share one or two as you wish.
All right. I'm glad you asked that. I recently actually had a experience in the first 7 days of April. And April, as we may know, is APRI, which means the opening, spring, you know, it's opening. And I woke up, you know, and with something that I had to write, with a message, even with a beat to it. And I don't even really do music. But prior to that, I had another similar experience along this way. So I'll just say through, and for me, in my chart, the way I am supposed to express it, the messages from the spirit world, is through writing it either in poem, because I have a lot of poems that I've written, but it's a seed of thought. So from the seed of thought, you can write it down as a poem, and it's the seed for a paragraph, or it's the seed for a book, and that's how it works. So I was given a seed of thought. I was given one when I first came into this information, and I have it on the back cover of How to Interpret Your Natal Chart. Truthfully, that writing, all of our spirits are one, all of our energies one, I didn't understand that then at all. But my experience was that there was a noise. This is what I experienced. And this noise is almost like flying or buzzing or whatever. Like say if you thought that there was a fly in the window or something, and you're gonna go, and I as before going to bed, and I was hearing it, but there was nothing there. But whether there was something there or not tangible, what it had me do, I hate to say this because then people think you're crazy, but that's what spiritual
Right.
Yes.
Same thing when Cujo came here.
Okay.
Here, the realm, there's nothing crazy. All truth is truth. You know what I'm saying?
Truth is truth. Truth is truth.
Yeah.
So my experience was I was being forced by the spirit in a positive way, not forced in a bad way, to write something, pen and paper, write it. And I had to write it. And when I finished writing it, I mean, the last word, and put the period on it, the sound stopped and I could go to bed. So I wrote that down, and it took me, myself, it actually was the beginning of me going into this paradigm of information, to be honest, now that I look back. Now, 20 years, just this past April, first 7 days of April, a similar thing happened. And what it said to me, the message that it gave me that I guess I am supposed to share. I know I'm supposed to share it because why give it to me? I mean, I can keep it to myself, but the nature of it says, no, you need to do something with this. Not only do you need to share it, which I'm not going to read it all because it's long. It actually can be performed. It actually can be spoken word. It's actually a strong seed. But the message of it is this. It's all about the spirit now. Don't you know? That's the message. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's how it came to me. And I had to actually record the beat. I'm not a musician or whatever like that, but it was like, it's all about the spirit now. Don't you know? That is the message of right now. And so let me just share something with you about that, because I know that is the message of these days, meaning all of the things that you thought was pomp and circumstance or whatever, drop it all. Drop every bit of it, because you have to save your soul. You have to save your soul in these days to move forward. People are looking for things to get back the way they were. Not going to go. You're being forced to deal with you and your investment on this. You are an investment on this earth plane. You are it. You came for a reason. You have a job to do. You have something to do. And it cannot necessarily be defined as the same as the thing that someone else has to do. What happens with that is when you start telling that truth, back to the crazy, people will say, oh, well, you're crazy. No, it was explained to me, my son, we was just talking about this, and the way he explained it, he says, it's a great example. Someone is trying to promote something, and they've got a script, and they're trying to read the script. This is a perfect example, really. Trying to read the script and make you think that they're not reading it, and make you think that they're sincere. It's not coming from the heart. So the heart and the mind is not connected. It has to come straight out, from the heart, and then it will be what it is, because sincerity of the heart is necessary so that you're not reproached. So those days are over. The days of being who you really are and exposed, everything is exposed. It's just done. It's over. It's not even about fighting it. It is what it is. What's happening is, are you able to sustain this energy? Are you able to really sustain yourself in your mind thoughts, in your mind? So for me, this experience came, and it came to me, as I said, for writing, because if I look at my chart, Neptune, which is the unseen energies, is in my third house of writing, communicating, you know, along with Libra publishing. All of that is meant to be, regardless of what one thinks or thinks they know, or even myself and my journey. It's just meant to be. So when Neptune comes with when the energies, the spirit comes, it comes that way for me. And so it's called, an interpretation of a chart, it's called automatic writing. You may have automatic writing too. You know, it depends on what's in your chart. But it's greater than that when it comes from the spirit. When the spirit taps on your door and says, yo, write this, you have to do it. So again, if I were to explain, you know, what I went through, like when I was explaining, I was hearing this buzzing sound, and then someone say, oh, well, maybe it was some evil flying thing. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it wasn't. Right. You know, so then you got to get with that. No, it wasn't that. It was a positive experience to give me something that even to this day, while we're speaking, that was 20 years ago, is good. It's still good, because this experience that I recently had that says, and I repeat, it's all about the spirit now. It's the same energy, spirit, excuse me, that came 20 years ago. And then another time in between that. And the time when it says some of us, I wasn't talking about me. See, I had another one that says some of us are like angels, or like knights, cloaked as angels, riding a white horse, like knights, like angels, cloaked as knights, excuse me, riding white horses, coming from the future to correct the present before it becomes the past. That was a message. That was another spiritual message that was given to me. And I wrote that in a very much shorter writing. So that spirit, the one from 20 years ago, which told me to write, and the one that just came in this opening of spring, it's all the same spirit. That much I know. I'm not identifying it. I'm not trying to identify, because we're all one. I am honored that, you know, it came to me, and it's not like it came to me. I was asleep, actually. It was a night vision. I woke up to the overwhelming, let me explain it to you in case any of you ever get this, to the overwhelming necessity to write this. You know how they say when you wake up from a dream, you should write it down? Well, this was greater than all of that. It was an overwhelming necessity to write this and write it now. And then I wrote something, and then I laid back down and it was like, no, you're not finished. And then I had to write some more. Then I had to do the inflection of the beat of it. I mean, really. So it's the opening that is going to bring us into the future for the spirit, for those who we're on the same direction, and how the spirit wants us, or what the spirit wants us to know. So it'll come to you, but this is the way it came to me. And so I will say that in this vision, and then I'm going to end here, I think, in this vision, I was in a place, and I can tell you that the place that I was in was where souls meet to decide which road, like a crossroads, where they're gonna go. And the place was smoky gray. When I say smoky, I don't mean smoke like smoke from a cigarette. I mean smoky gray. So it was the gray matter. Are you following me? Yeah. All right, because I'm still trying, but I'm not gonna tell all the details, but that's the place. And in this place, it was like, if you remember Marvin Gaye's Sugar Shack, where they're all partying, you know, all right, people were there. And some of them didn't know that they're in a place where they have to make a crossroad decision. And so what was really stated heavily was that you have to tell them what they need to know. And I was saying this to someone else, to another sister, young, I don't know who she is, doesn't matter. But I know women are the ones that are going to do this. Because in the opening of it, it showed that there was a person, a being, which was a male specimen, who had failed, who had, and when I don't want to say failed, what is the word? Infiltrate, wasn't good. And they are not, this is my dream now, they are not, absolutely no way, who they have said they were. And so I think it's just basically talking about all of us have been duped because we've been misled by programming instead of us following the principles. And that was the end. And then that was the opening. And then it was like, so all of these souls are here in this gray matter, and they've got to come to this crossroads and make a decision. They don't even really know, but they can have the opportunity to know if they have come to hear. If they come to see it, now they have to be it. That's what was one of the messages. But it went to where I'm not going to always be around. I know that. I mean, I am in spirit. And went to, well, tell this sister that she has to tell the people that you want to know what it said that we must know? They have to know the law. Now, somebody saying, oh, you mean the law that was written in the statute? No, the law of correspondence, the universal law. They must, it said they have to know the law, but that's where it starts. And that was an important factor, that all of this chaos that's going on, you have to know the law. That was the message. And that was a very strong message that must be carried on from this point forward, continue to be carried on, because through that, you stand in principles. Because even when you get down to, people talk about the law of this land, which really was established, not by Benjamin Franklin and all that, not what you think. It was established in the principles of divine law, in the spirit of divine law. 7 articles, 10 Bill of Rights, 7 planets, 10, 7 most influential, 10 altogether. It really was. But that's not the law. I mean, yes, we do need to know that too, but we need to know the law. And I know, and this is a whole nother class talking about that, that if we were to enforce even the law of the land as one, as Moorish Americans, which is already established as a political jurisdiction for Moors, right? We'd be good. Instead of fractured, and you've got people just doing all, because they need our energy. So you've got those out there in the street that are Black Lives Matter, right? And I'm not talking about them personally, but that spirit energy is like, no. If all of us, because they need our energy, don't get that twisted. The universe needs our energy, right? All right, let me put it that way. And if we were all in the same direction and was dealing with principles and the elements, and then interfacing with this thing that was created and established later, that actually is done to protect us, to keep everybody at bay from molesting us, so that we can live our lives in privacy, and as long as we don't infringe on someone else, this could go down. This is the thing that was established that you cannot tear down, but no one wants to walk into that. They want to start something new instead of the honoring of the deeds and the acts of their foremothers. So that again is a whole nother class, but we have to be on one accord. And although we're different, what makes it beautiful is that no one's asking you to do anything except for follow principles. And when we all follow principles that don't change, no one should be offending another. It's simplistic.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't want to get into, but I do want to say this about this. The spirit said this, and they said, so right here, let me just read this part. This isn't just my opinion. Okay. It says that there is no, it says that there is no finish Time does not diminish. It cycles and cycles, and there is no fear. End is never here. But if you cannot sustain the spirit, nor cross through the gray matter, you must stay behind, stay, I don't want to say stay black, because, well, they did say, you must stay black, meaning dead, not black. All right, that's what they meant. So you must stay black and remain in chatter, chatter, chatter. Pick up your slack. We will be coming back. And trust to find you at the sugar shack, where souls are exposed and those worthy rose from their toes to their nose. They rose. They could smell it. They came to hear it, so they could tell it. They came to see it and know, and to see it and know they must be it. They came to know. They came to know themselves, and they sought and they found. They came to know. It is all about the spirit now. Don't you know?
Thanks a lot. I really appreciated this, and I'm fascinating by the dream, but I'm saying it as a reality that you had. You know, that great
Yes,
matter.
see, but that's the part, Daniel. It was a reality. In fact, as we said, you wake up and you had a dream. You're like, oh, I remember my dream, and people say write it down. No, this was that, but it was greater than all of that. Was a reality, and I just had to do it. I don't think I'm supposed to keep that to myself. I'm supposed to figure out a way to look. That gave me another 20 years of seed, because I only gave you part of it, but yeah, so, but the experience was so real. It was like, it wasn't frightening, but it was, what's the word I wanted? Impacting. It's absolutely real. Like I said, when I went back to sleep, I'm like, okay, it's like, no. Or I tried to go back, I laid back down. No, you're not done. And then I had to get up and write some more, like that. So, and after that, and this is what I want to say. I want to say to you, thank you, because your time, we all say that divine law governs all things, correct? And you made a connection sometime after that, just really a couple of weeks ago. But I'm still living in that, you say, that reality that bought me. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that was very real, very real. I can't ignore that. And part of just asking to be a part of your galactic talk is, in my eyes and view, a way of getting to share, that experience. And I want to say that, I want to say this before, that I'm going to start doing astrology classes virtually. Very simplistic. Usually the drawings, it's like man must learn by signs and symbols. And what I realize is that I have been already creating those things and never, like, even in the 12 years that we were at Moor's Heritage and History School at New York, I never really did astrology like I wanted to. And it wasn't because I couldn't. I just doing everything, and I just not the way I really wanted to. So now I realize that this is the way, because it's a visual learning, so that you can recognize things when you see it, even on the mundane earth, and also as you travel. Again, recognizing color is important. If you're astral traveling, you got to know what color vibrations are. So you learn all of that through the elementary astrology. So I will say this, anybody who's interested in the classes, I haven't set the date or anything yet. It's all set up, ready to go, except that anybody who's interested in it, I need them to send me an email to rvbay2020@yahoo.com. RV Bey 2020. Yeah, if you're interested in astrology class, and then we can get more involved in those teachings. So again, I thank you. You're a part of that spiritual reality that's happening right now.
Yeah. And Raz, you mentioned an email. Would you mind sending it to me so I could share it?
Absolutely,
So-
absolutely. In fact, I think I emailed you from it.
Okay, so that's the same one. Okay, excellent.
RV Bey 2020 at Yahoo. Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So, Raz, just to let you know, you're stating that metaphysical experience, that's only a portion of it, right? That you've been sharing, right?
You mean that I've shared only a portion of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just it's only a portion. So that's pumped me up to travel, you know what I'm saying, and get the whole thing. But with your requests, that would be probably for
Let me tell you something. This experience, well, no, I mean, okay, so here's what it is. All right. Okay. Because it is a great bite. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it. But here's the thing. I'm gonna read the whole thing. The part of it that was a dream is still, or that I thought was a dream, a night vision, that's with me. That's a great part of it. If I can explain what I saw, what I heard, like that. But when I went to go write it, it forced me to write it in this manner as a piece of art or a work of art. But if you don't know what the stage that was set first, then, you know, and like for instance, this is great. And I do want to say this. Dance is expression, is that correct? It is a form of expression. We used to get together and they would say, oh, you know, we would do a rain dance or whatever it was we were going to do. They would say the energy. In this message, dream, there was dance. Like someone had said, and I guess it was coming near the end because I was at this place, guaranteed, it was real. And there were other spirits that you didn't see, and they were with us, you know what I mean? And they were there, but everyone else in the room didn't even know that they were there. Like they were in their own place and space. You know, man will find themselves where they can solve their problems best, right? So it was like we're looking at all of it. We're looking at those who know, those who think they know, those who don't know, want to know. And we're looking at those on the outer skirts where there are those lower spirits that want to devour them.
Yep.
The whole thing, you understand? And so we were there, but we couldn't be touched because we were observing this thing. And, you know, so that part is, you know, I wrote that down, but this part, and I'm going to read it because it's a lot to bite. It is a lot. But here's how it goes. I had a vision with specific precision, a dream. I know what it means, dreaming on and making contact amidst the sorrow and the black of ignorant nothingness, but urging light to merge amongst the ashes of the crashes and the burns, where you learn, where you yearn, and you learn that it is all about the spirit now, don't you know? It was in a room. It wasn't light and it wasn't dark. It was smoky grays where crossroads of souls must meet and greet indiscreet, not hiding, to decide which way they go. And so, with arms flailing, now let me just stop here. This is where the dance was, because let me just add it. This is where the dance was. All of a sudden, the communication wasn't about talking. It was about dancing. Very heavy, you know, on the beat, dancing. You hear me? I mean, like, really, all right? And so with that, so with arms flailing, voices wailing, bodies moving on bamming beats, trampling, yet soft, sure stepping feet. No need for betting. What you want, you are getting. Not doing it for any show. Doing it because you know to speak with the mind is to begin. To speak with the voice is the melody of the innocent soul. But to speak with the mind, the soul, and the body is your offering to break in the shell, to swing, to grow, to flow, to be and stay free as you were never bound, because it's all about the spirit. Don't you know? You will unfold, never get old. So take hold as the sun becomes the gold, the coal becomes the diamond, the sap of the pineal tree becomes the amber that lights the way as your soul becomes fire and you take all things higher because you know it is the free spirit that soars higher than the mountains and sees greater than the eagles. The indestructible, unshakable, regal never becomes feeble. And writing what you see, speaking what you hear, moving with the rhythm of the soul makes you all about the spirit. Now, don't you know? So I am the writer, a scribe with a vibe. I write what I see. I speak what I feel. I move until the mountains part at the beat of my heart. I know where I got my start. I know I am in the dominion, and this just ain't my opinion. We are all in it, but not of it. It succeeds us and precedes us and succeeds us and precedes us and precedes us and succeeds us because, and this is the repeat, there is no finish. Time does not diminish. It cycles and it cycles, and there is no fear. The end is never here. But if you can't sustain the spirit nor cross that great matter, you must stay black and in chatter, chatter, chatter. Pick up your slack. Career coming back. And we trust to find you at the Sugar Shack, where souls are exposed. And those worthy rose. They rose from their toes to their nose because they came, because they could smell it. So they came to hear it so that they could tell it. And they came to see, and now they came to see it. Now they must be it. They must be, they came to know. They came to know themselves. And they sought and they did find. They came to know. It's all about the spirit now. Don't you know?
I love it.
That's the message from the spirit world.
Amazing, Raz. Hey, you know what? Thanks a lot, because there's probably close to 50 people in the chat. And here, I gotta say that, we've been, not only it's an honor, but it's a special moment, because, you know, not a lot of people may have heard this before, right? So,
What I just shared?
yeah,
Oh, absolutely not. No.
I mean, it's precious, you know what I'm saying? And I just want to thank you again uh, for this, mystical experience, because I sense it with my, with my heart, but mostly the energy portals. You know what I'm saying? What you're stating, and it's precious. So thanks a lot, Raz.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a musician to do so, but I'm not gonna give out all that. But I already see what the spirit told me for me to do, and then if it were to be done as a spoken word, what needs to be done, and every time you say it's all about the spirit now, don't you know it's a special whatever, and then leave with everybody dancing. That's crazy, right? Because some people say don't dance, but it's an expression. It's an communicating expression. It overpowers many things. And I like to dance. I know other people like to dance, but it really is telling me that. And what I got out of that part about it's a sacrifice of the body when you know what I'm saying? It's like mind, body, soul. We can speak it, but when we actually can be silent, and be in unison and dance, most powerful thing you can see, and you've all seen it, where some of our what we call African dance groups, and they will, well, when I was younger, before I came into the Moors, it was African dance group that came into the area, and they would like be standing. It's almost like they would all jump up high at the same time and come down at the same time in unison. And the power of dance, I don't have to express. I think it's a moving thing. And the Congos, like I had also had an experience about the Congos years ago, where the bonga player, the Congo and bonga, it speaks to the heart, speaks to the soul, and that right. And so it's like, and I had titled it something like, does anybody speak to the soul anymore? Is there any Congos playing? Because that's what actually generates, the same path of speaking from the heart, putting it in tune, I guess is the right word. And it's a beautiful thing. And I will say, during the classes at New York, I always wanted someone to open up that would just, play that. And, while we're gathering and going together. And at one time, a brother did come and he did do that. It was a beautiful, it didn't last too long because people come and go and do their thing, but it was really inspiring, to have that happen. So that's what I got out of the sacrifice. It's not really a physical sacrifice. It's just you of your body dancing to communicate. That's what I think it meant, and that we need to start, doing that.
So then again, today, Galactic Talk, we had you know what? I don't have specific words because there's no words to really define, what I'm saying? The light being who you are, Sister Raz. But I just want to let you to know, what I'm saying, of behalf of the individuals that I know, we really appreciate what you're still doing, what I'm saying, because you did provide assistance to all, you know what I mean?
I'd like to say, because you said what you're still doing, and that was an operative word, because it's been a while. We stopped doing physical classes 2 years ago in New York. And I don't have the time to go through how and why that all happened, but it did, divinely so. And so now I'm like, oh, we're going to start up again, and we're going to have physical classes, but it's going to be, people are going to have to sign up, etc. This is what I thought. Then all of this other activity they call Corona, which is really the sun. That was another thing that, but anyway, I'm not going to even get into that. Like, all right, it has to be virtual. And I realized, and this is a lesson for everybody on that chart, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. And if you're at the beginning, you're at the end. If you're at the end, you're at the beginning. And Pisces lesson is Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius, you're learning, is a holy cross of knowledge. It really is, the holy cross. And so Pisces governs institutions, confinements, prisons, mental institutions, hospitals, etc. If you do not recuperate to perfect your technique of applying your knowledge to serve man and mankind, you will find yourself into confinement. And so I realized that this has been a recuperation, and the spirit is saying it's time to regenerate. It's time to now still do what you do, but just do it virtually, because that's electrifying age of information. It's live.